Rolling intro in five, four, three, two, one.
Just what tu bois sans dire à tout.
What's going on, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, I know this isn't the usual Tuesday. We had a bit of a change of plans. We kind of had a jerks gathering, something or other.
Yeah, something like
Just
that.
something like that. It was just one of those opportunities that presented itself that we could all get together and actually be in person and hang out and share a meal and have a couple of drinks. So so the trinity of this show, of the Circle of Drinks podcast, myself, Robert, and James, we're all present in one room, just enjoying each other's company, and so we took advantage of it.
Yeah, it was good. We had dinner together. We watched a movie together. A movie I actually had never seen before, so that was a lot of fun.
Right, and for me, it's been a while since I've seen. It was GoldenEye, the first outing of Pierce Brosnan as the titular character of James Bond.
And it's really good, actually.
It's
I
really
really
good,
liked it.
but I mean, maybe it's because I was a young kid when I saw it, but I didn't remember it being so campy. But I mean, I guess to a certain point, I think to a certain degree, all James Bond movies are kind of campy. But
I disagree. I didn't feel like this one was campy. This one actually felt like the most serious of Pierce Brosnan James Bond movies, and definitely a hell of a lot less campier than the Roger Moore ones.
True. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just you're right in that this was a more like one of the more serious ones, particularly under the under I don't know what to say, but under Pierce Brosnan's tenure. There you go.
Right.
Pierce Brosnan's tenure, one of the more serious ones, but I mean, just more of like kind of not necessarily from Pierce Brosnan himself or the character, but just kind of like from like the side characters, like the Alan Cummings character, and just how over the top his character was with the mannerisms and things like that, and that's really all I was really meaning.
Well,
in terms of campiness.
Yeah, I guess you did have like the CIA agent that was played by Joe Don Baker.
Yeah.
Who
he's like comic relief and just like it's like a little bit more, a little more sillier than I would expect it from kind of like the more serious tone that Pierce Brosnan was bringing.
True, and it's funny because Joe Don Baker is also one of the worst. Like I don't even know if you call like I don't know if it would be a spy movie or a cop movie, but Mitchell. I don't know if you've ever seen that before. it's hilariously bad.
Okay.
We'll have to watch that sometime. But other than that, like I felt like this is actually a pretty serious movie, and you kind of get like a little bit of the 00 lore in there.
Right, it's a little bit more fleshed out because you think because again because one of the few roles where Sean Bean one of the few roles Sean Bean has where he doesn't die immediately.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, this is I believe this is the first. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the first time we actually are given a second 00 agent.
Yeah, I don't think that happens in any other James movie from what I've seen. I've never, not even like the Sean Connery or the Roger Moore, the Daniel Craig ones deal with the other.
Well, actually,
Uh,
for it's not specifically said, but they do refer, in the Daniel Craig James Bond, they do refer to it as the Double O program.
right.
And so, but my understanding was always that there's only like one Double O, and it's like when that Double O gets knocked off, then they bring in another Double O, and he's giving, and that's why they're given a subsequent number. That's why James Bond was 007, because he replaced the previous Double O, which was 006, and presumably if he ever was knocked off or had the good fortune of being able to retire, then the next Double O would be 008, and so on and so forth.
Oh, see, I understood it differently, that like that the 007 was like their top guy, and like so, and obviously like we have different iterations of James Bond, which is a code name, and because all these guys like are, because the way that each of them has played the role has been very different. You had Sean Connery, but then like it's not, Roger Moore's iteration is a different James Bond altogether, and obviously we're never given a real name, and you really see this in how Daniel Craig's iteration of James Bond, how he's a very young, he's like if 007, like he's kind of like just starting out, and he's a little bit rough around the edges, and he's kind of distrustful of the government that he's working for. And so I figured like the 007 was like, oh, that's the top spy, that the James Bond, um, pretty much the James Bond designation, like the code name, like that's like the top of the top, and all the other ones kind of like fall in line of 007.
Right. Well, it's kind of hard because I think the James Bond series is one of the series where it's kind of hard to nail down like canon, because I remember, I forget, like it's when Sean Connery came back to reprise the role as an older James Bond, but
Yeah.
he made like a glib witticism about how this not happening to any of the other guys.
Right,
So
right.
they made like they kind of make a self-referential, they kind of poke fun at this making this self-referential, uh, having this one, self-referential line, but it's kind of hard to say like what's canon and what's not, because I think the overall idea is that this is one, that it's not, this is a specific person with a specific designation, and not necessarily a code name. And even and to the point of like the Daniel Craig thing, where it's I think that theory is a little bit is debunked, because in Skyfall we find that he has parents, and his actual surname is Bond, and so
That to me is like, that's the I haven't seen the most recent ones with Daniel Craig.
Mhm.
And that's just weird, because it just doesn't, like, that to me doesn't make sense. But maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I mean,
I
right?
haven't.
Okay, so yeah, but right now in this like specific, because right now Daniel Craig holds tenure for the
Right.
character of James Bond, and so whatever, like right now, for whatever, like whatever is put down for his James Bond iteration is, I guess, for the moment, canon.
Yeah. Well,
And
and
so
I'd
yeah,
also
and in Skyfall, yeah, it does. They do reveal that that his he had a mother and father. Their last his father's last name was Bond. His name is Bond, and so on and so forth. So for the at least Daniel Craig iteration, yes, no, it's not, James Bond is not a code name, and the 007 moniker is not passed on. Because even in the first outing in Casino Royale, in that opening scene where he gets his second kill there and therefore uh, boosting him up to the rank of a double O. They make reference to the double O program.
Right.
So there obviously are other double O's. Or at least in this iteration of the James Bond character with Daniel Craig.
We'll definitely have to do a James Bond month.
Yeah, I mean we could do like our favorite James Bond movies.
To me, like I would say, like my favorite so far overall is still the very first one with Sean Connery, Doctor No.
Yeah, of course.
It's that one's really good, but I am a Sean Connery James Bond fan. I think he was the best one. But to be honest, the only one I don't like is the fucking awful, god awful George Lazenby one.
Yeah, that was a bit of a misstep.
It was so bad. And I hated his accent. I hated his acting in it. I thought it was god awful.
Well, actually, in Skyfall, they actually make James Bond Scottish. His family is from Scotland, and I think that was a little nod to Sean Connery.
Well, yeah, and that makes sense. But yeah, no, I just like I said, all of the even like the Roger Moore ones, which are very campy, but they're awesome too. Like you get the only one, and then the only other ones I haven't seen, I've never seen the Timothy Dalton James Bond films. Like I think there was like what two from the '80s that he did, which had Pierce Brosnan not been doing Remington Steele, they wouldn't have used Timothy Dalton because they really wanted Pierce Brosnan to play James Bond, and they finally got him, in the '90s. So, so yeah, but all like the pretty much like the mainstream James Bond films, other than like I also haven't seen the last of the Pierce Brosnan one, which was because I've seen Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough, but I don't remember seeing the fourth one that he did.
Tomorrow. Wait, you've seen?
So there was GoldenEye,
Uh-huh.
Tomorrow Never Dies, and The World Is Not Enough, and I forget what the fourth one is.
Oh, Die Another Day.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
And then I haven't seen the last two Daniel Craig James Bond movies.
Wait, so you haven't seen Skyfall or Spectre?
Nope.
Yeah, it's so weird because like I've seen Spectre, but like I haven't seen it like all the way through. Like sometimes I'll catch it on TV or on one of the movie channels that I have through cable, but I've never actually sat and watched the entire Spectre movie. I just know like it isn't like I think like from everyone that I've talked to, they've always said like they should have stopped at they should have stopped at Skyfall, and and Skyfall was like the perfect end because it was like kind of like the James Bond proper, like that's like he fully embodies that character,
Right.
and it's like and you get like and you go and you get the return back to like a male M, um, as head of MI6, a la who's that guy? He always gets confused with Liam Neeson. Ray Fiennes.
Oh, yeah.
Ray Fiennes as M. Um, and it's like he's like become James, like the kind of the James Bond that we know, or we've known through like the Connery movies, and like he's fully become the agent that we all know.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I've been hearing that like Skyfall is really good. So I'm kind of looking forward to watching that one. But I guess because they're gonna have like another one coming up, I think next year, I believe.
I don't know. I mean, because like with the whole Corona situation, it's it's a bit up in the air.
Everything's gotten pushed back.
Yeah, I mean, well, I just heard that Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be released on HBO Max. I think a lot of the movies that are supposed to come out in the summer of this year are just going to be dropped in one of the various streaming platforms. I heard, and I also heard that the Black Widow movie is also going to be dropped on Disney Plus.
Yeah, in May, I believe, is when it's going to come out.
Hmm.
Which I'll probably end up watching that because I know my wife has been like Black Widow is her favorite Marvel character,
Mm-hmm.
so she's been dying to watch to see that. So we'll probably end up doing that. Was
Yeah,
that the
hopefully they don't pull a Milan and ask for $40 on top of the subscription fee.
oh god, I hope not too, but like, more than likely that they probably are, but whatever, if it's something that she wants, so it's like whatever, I don't care, but uh uh
Yeah, but
but we'll see. Like, because I know like there was the guy that played Freddie Mercury is gonna be the bad guy in the movie.
yeah, and I've been watching a few theory videos about that, and
Hmm.
some people are saying that he might actually be like uh, the new iteration of like the Doctor No character.
That would be interesting. That could be interesting.
It could be.
But yeah, I like I said, it was fun to watch a movie. I mean, God, it's like what 25 years old now, and it's like I guess I had never seen it before. It was weird. I played the video game. I played the shit out of GoldenEye on N64 back when it came out, but yeah, never watched the movie.
Hmm. Then how's it compare?
Um, to be honest, I would say that it's not it's not like a perfect uh iteration of the movie because I think like they came up with the game. I want to say like it came out like just before the movie came out.
Right,
And
as a tie-in or like promotion.
yeah, I could be getting this wrong. I don't remember exactly.
Hmm.
But there's certain levels within the game that match up to the movie.
Hmm.
But it's not like 100% like the
Right, because I'm
movie. Like
sure like if they yeah since the video games always drop sooner, I'm sure they didn't like want to give anything away plot
right,
wise. So yeah, I'm
right.
sure there's like some like retooling of the plot in the game versus what was presented in the movie.
Right. So that first sequence, like where he's like dropping into that facility,
Hmm.
where he's bunging in, like that's part of it. I think like a few of the places where like he goes into those like bunkers and stuff, like those Soviet bunkers and whatnot, like that's part of it. But nothing. But it wasn't like pretty much a shot for shot remake of the movie within the game. But it was still
Hmm.
really fun. It was a very revolutionary first person shooter for the time. Um, it doesn't really hold up. It doesn't really hold up as well today.
Right.
Um, there's obviously like first person shooters have gotten a lot better since then. But that game was a big deal. Like I mean that was a game that everyone played all the time back in the 90s. It was a great game.
Mm. Yeah. No, it was. I mean, I still enjoyed it, but then watching it back, like you said, 25 years later, and it's just like kind of I couldn't help but notice like kind of how dated some of like the special effects were. Um,
Yeah.
Like kind of like when like the satellite is revealed and kind of it's just kind of like that reverse shot of like the water like filling up a thing. And
Yeah, which would have been like, thinking back in the 90s, like, damn, that's awesome. Like, but then you now that we like, I think you and I are much more, we have a keener eye towards like how stuff is like being shot, and I think that's just from all the movie reviews, and we're seeing like how like these guys are going about like doing that, and it's essentially like they're showing a reverse time, shot where like, they'd filled up this place with water, but then they saw like they just reversed the camera. It's like, oh, it's the water is receding now. It's like, no, it's not.
yeah. Right, and so, like some like the model work, like the satellite, and it's obviously a model, and it's like
Yeah.
against the backdrop or whatever, but it's still a good movie. I still enjoy it, and kind of like and like the kind of wild antics of like the femme fatale and Femke Jensen.
Yeah.
That was entertaining.
That it's yeah that she was quite the crazy character.
Right.
But the fact that like you start off with like the first act, the very first couple scenes in the movie with James Bond and his friend that was also a 00 agent, Alec, played by Sean Bean, and like we see him get killed, where it's like, oh, typical Sean Bean
I
movie,
know, right?
like.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah. Would it be Sean Bean role if he wasn't killed right away?
Why? Okay, why is he always killed? Like no matter like what. The only movie I've seen where he has not died is Ronin.
I don't know. I mean, it really is a mystery.
I wanted. We're gonna.
It's kind of like the mystery. It's kind of like the mystery is like, why is Kevin Bacon in everything?
That's also true. But no, you have like that first scene where Alec gets killed, and then as the movie technically takes place 9 years after those events, and as he's doing his investigation, trying to figure out like what's going on, he stumbles upon the fact that the bad guy, his friend, survived, and he held a lot of like grudges and stuff like that, which honestly is like, it's a great twist. I didn't expect it. Especially like if I had been watching this in '95, I wouldn't have expected that. I think that was pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I'm to think back now on it, I mean, oh man, I hate to say it because I know you haven't seen Skyfall yet, but there, they do borrow some elements from this movie. It seems.
Oh, awesome.
Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, and I know this is kind of turning into a review of Goldeneye, but let's just move on from this.
Yeah.
Because yeah, because we have like we have a lot of things to talk. I mean, we have enough reviews for this show,
True.
anyways. So
I got excited about Goldeneye. That's all.
Yeah. So let's get into what we originally had planned. Just really quickly, just the recap. I know because 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago? It was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have our normally scheduled stream, and that's because I went fishing with my dad and my uncle. And it was a good time. I'm mostly only there to be a babysitter because they're both elderly men, and there was an incident in which our my family, and then my uncle's family, like my cousins, like we feel like that they can no longer go by themselves on these little trips, and so
Got it.
Yeah, so I being the least regularly employed, I have, it's fallen to me to kind of play babysitter for them.
I was gonna say, is it like because it's like grumpy old man like Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau, like they just like can't get along, or is
No, no,
it?
I mean no, it's just because because I just don't think that are aware of like their age anymore.
Yeah. So like they take risks that they probably shouldn't.
Yeah, and also well, because the other big I'm just gonna tell you. The other big reason is because the last time I didn't go with them, they ended up rolling their car.
That's oh yeah, I do remember you telling that incident.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, and it wasn't, it wasn't just like, oh, the car tipped over. You know, it it flipped over 3 times,
Jesus.
at least according to the witnesses, and and they're going up into uh, they're going through the mountain, kind of like a mountain pass to get to a lake, um, and in the mountain pass there's there's a river creek type thing. And at this point, at the point where they rolled their car, they barely missed rolling into the river, but at the deepest part of that river.
Damn.
Yeah. So yeah. So after that incident, our my family and my uncle's kids, my cousins, we decided they cannot go on trips by themselves anymore.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And again, since I'm the least regularly employed one of the children, it has fallen onto me to go kind of play babysitter.
Ah.
Yeah, but
Hey,
I mean,
you got
it's still a good time. I still enjoy spending time with my father and my uncle. It's always a good time. So
right, right, right.
it doesn't seem like a burden at all, and I enjoy fishing as well. So and camping. So it's always it's always fun.
Yeah. So like, did you what type of were you doing like carp fishing or like what type of fishing were you doing?
No, this time we went to this spot in Lompoc, just past Santa Barbara. We went perch fishing on the beach,
Hmm,
and we actually caught stuff. Uh,
nice.
yeah, which is not rare, but it seldom happens nowadays.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and like the size of the fish, wasn't that impressive, but it's something.
Hey, you caught something. You had a good time.
Yeah. So yeah, and yeah, although we did go on a day where for during the time we were there, it did rain for one day, but that wasn't so bad. It
No.
was a light rain, and it was only for one day, and it came and went, and the rest of the trip was lovely. And then it's actually not even that windy because the place that we go to, it's kind of well known for it getting very windy.
Yeah.
But this time not so much.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah. I mean, if we could ever get a, if we could ever get a spot, I'd highly recommend going. Maybe even do a guys trip or something.
Yeah, that would be great. I would definitely like to do that at some point. Um, we'll
Yeah,
see if
that's what I wanted to do for my birthday this year. Is I wanted to go camping with some friends, but with like the restrictions and stuff, and not a lot of people.
yeah. I mean, I would have gone with you.
Yeah, but again, it's just really hard. Because it's a very popular beach
yeah.
for surfers, for like both like kite surfing and regular surfing, and and people who like to go fish. It's a very popular beach, so it's really hard to lock down a campsite.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But yeah, we'll make that work sometime. I think that would be a lot of fun.
yeah, 'cause I always like beach camping the best. Just
Yeah,
being by the ocean and getting having getting that first big inhale of salt air. It always feels like it's doing wonders for me.
exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it sounds like an awesome fishing trip. I'm glad you were able to go.
Me too.
Um.
I highly recommend fishing to everybody. It's the
Oh
best thing
yeah.
ever. Because there's three
Yeah.
different types of fishing. There's the fly fisherman.
Yep.
There's there's yeah, there's fly fishermen. Uh, there's weekend warriors, and then there's people who just want to go drink beer.
Ah, I am probably in the latter two categories.
Yeah, there's always there's the three types of fishermen, and yeah,
And
I definitely fall in the middle and the last category. Although I've never really been fishing with my buds, so
so if we go fishing together, Andy, we're definitely drinking a lot of beer.
nice.
But yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. We should make that happen at some point.
No, absolutely we should. Yeah.
Um,
All right.
my my last couple weeks, like I mean, work is man, it's that time of year now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we got the holidays coming up, so a lot of extra work. I've been putting in a lot of overtime recently, which is fine with me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind because I usually end up working like super early in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
so um, I don't mind about that. And I'm actually working for Thanksgiving this year.
Mm.
Uh, no, other than that, like I guess like one thing I've been doing because I kind of took a little bit of a break from the news cycle for a little while just
Mm-hmm.
because I was starting to get kind of like worn out.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, in lieu of that, I started listening to a new podcast. Obviously we've been watching a lot of movies. For obviously we do that just for our own enjoyment. Like you and I think have watched a lot of movies together recently,
Mm-hmm.
and then I do it just for I do it for the podcast to review stuff. And I actually found a podcast that is with the some of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 guys, and they have a podcast called Movie Sign with the Mads, and it's them like reviewing all sorts of different like movies, good and bad. And I'm finding it very very enjoyable. It's funny. I've learned a lot about even movies that I know a lot about. I was like, oh wow, and though it listening to them, these guys have been reviewing movies for decades, and it definitely shows. Like they know so much about even like all the actors and like how they're connected, and oh, if you like this actor, you like this genre, you should really like check out like these movies that have these people. And it's like and like some of like the inside stories with like behind some of the movies. And um it's like, man, I hope to get there one day because I still feel like even though like our reviews have gotten like really like fun and interesting, like I still feel like there's another like level that we could go to on our movie reviews, but that just takes like time and experience, I think.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Oh no, no doubt we'll get there. But it's just like I wasn't discouraged. I was like, oh, it's like there's another level to
Right,
get
right.
to.
It's more aspirational, where it's like I want to,
It-
yeah. It's a target to aim for.
yeah, and a lot of and for us, like a lot of these movies, we're watching for sometimes we're watching them for the very first time. So it's not like us talking about the original Star Wars trilogy, where we've probably seen those movies, 20, 30, 40 times
At least.
and we know a lot about those movies. We know a lot, and we can really dive deep. But when we look at like other movies where it's like, it's like, man, I haven't really ever seen this film before. Like, and there's not really like we can only really scratch the surface. Like Metropolis, for instance, where I mean we only like barely scratch the surface of that movie. And that's a movie I want to I'll definitely watch again because I really liked it a lot. And it's just there's just another level to get to, so I'm kind of excited to see like where we go and like how things like change in our movie reviews and get better. But yeah, no, I mean it's I highly recommend that podcast if you for the movie fans out there. It's really good, and it's like I said, it's a lot of fun too.
Awesome. What was that podcast called again?
It's called Movie Sign with the Mads. It's on Spotify, and yeah, it's the guys' names are Frank Conniff and Trace Bellew. I can never pronounce his last name. But yeah, they were like they were big on Mystery Science Theater 3000, and they do like a bunch of like like riffing like shitty movies like around the country, like, and they're very funny.
All right, yeah. When you're not watching the Circle of Jerks podcast or Nocturnal Transmissions, be sure to check them out.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, let's get into I guess the one really pertinent news item.
Yeah.
For us, anyways, and and I mean a lot. It's so funny because as soon as LA, well, because we're obviously we're gonna be talking about the lockdowns. Um, but it's funny how as soon as LA does something, the country follows.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the adage of like so goes California, so goes the rest of the country. And, it's not wrong. But yeah, just last week, Mayor Garcetti,
who is awful.
Who is awful. Yeah, sometimes I refer to him as Airhead Garcetti. Just like how I refer to the governor sometimes as Gavin Nuisance. They're just both, because it's both awful. Because of course Gavin Newsom has his own controversy about him going to this really hoity-toity restaurant up in Napa Valley with like $400 a plate food, and just recently more details have recently come out about like that dinner party where it said like, oh, there's only 12 people there, but it actually turned out that it had upwards of 22 people there.
Yeah. Listen, that you know what? That's fine. I don't care. Go to your fancy restaurants. Be with the people you want. The problem is that when you are destroying the businesses and locking everyone down and saying that if you gotta go out of your house, your business is going to be destroyed, your life, your livelihood's going to be destroyed. Oh, but me, I can go wherever I want, and I can eat inside, maskless, and not only that, he's with like the quote unquote medical experts of.
Oh yeah, he was dining. They're probably planning the next 3 lockdowns or whatever. But the people he was having dinner with were people from specifically from the medical lobby.
Yeah.
So all the pharma people are all the insurance people, all the anything to deal with like kind of like not medicine but like the medical field or drugs and things like that. They're all there.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, they clearly don't care. Obviously, like, these are the people that are, the bureaucrats and shit that are in control of, your livelihood, but they don't care about, like, supposedly about this coronavirus that's killing everybody, right? So why should we be influenced? Why should we care and be scared? Clearly, these people that are telling us that we need to hide in our basement forever, uh, and if you try to get out of your basement, you're an evil, horrible person. Clearly they don't believe that. So why should we? And it's because they think that we're fucking idiots.
This is true.
And then you get Gavin Newsom, who looks like Christian Bale's character on American Psycho, and
Patrick
you have
Bateman. No,
yeah,
that's a perfect analogy.
yeah,
Gavin Newsom is Patrick Bateman, and I mean, yeah, and I wouldn't trust my wife around him. If I had a wife, because he's a wife fucker. He,
yeah,
he had an affair with his campaign manager's wife, and
Jesus.
for some reason, people still elected this man to be the governor. It's like if he's gonna fuck another man's wife, what makes you think that he can be trusted with governing a state?
Yeah, and
it's just like he tells you, like what's that old saying? If someone tells you who they are the first time, or no, if someone tells you who they say they are, to believe them the first time. And
yeah,
when it came out that he had an affair with someone fairly close to him, then yeah, believe him that he cannot be trusted.
yeah. And
but for this, but specifically for LA and some other cities, all in-person dining has been suspended. I know they were at limited capacity anyways, but setting up seats outside and in the parking lot and things like that. So they're already at reduced capacity. But this new ordinance is now doing it all away for in-person dining. And a lot of business owners and a lot of restaurant owners, they came out and said, like, because the provision is supposed to only be for 3 weeks. And isn't it so convenient that it's happening right around the time of the holidays, with like Thanksgiving and even it's gonna go until it's gonna go into Christmas. But just like the people, like and for the people who don't have families, like they're totally assed out. It's like, where are they supposed to go for Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner? It's like nowhere. That's where back just to sit in their little apartment by themselves with their hungry man Thanksgiving microwave dinners.
yeah, it's awful, and
It's completely it's completely disgraceful. I mean, people, they always try to put it on everybody else, like, oh, just sacrifice a little bit for the greater good. It's like
I'm
they
done.
They sound like the NWA from Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah,
Not Shaun of the Dead. Hot Fuzz. Where
yeah.
like the greater good. It's like is the government going to take responsibility for all the deaths from suicide?
Andrew Cuomo, who killed thousands of elderly people, he's winning like Emmys and shit for his press conferences. Can you believe that shit?
Yeah.
And all these awful governors and mayors and that are just like they have sent people to their deaths, and yet they're being celebrated as like, man, they've really handled the pandemic very well. It's like, give me a fucking break.
I don't know if it was in New York or some other state, but they were actually trying to pass legislation so that like nursing facilities or hospice care, they can't be sued if someone dies of coronavirus in their facilities.
God, that's fucking crazy.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Um,
And that the people that like Michigan, New York, I think New Jersey was another one.
yeah, California
Um,
too.
yeah,
People forget, but there were a fair share of like nursing home deaths in California
it,
as well.
it's insane, Andy. And Paul Joseph Watson put out a really good video a few days ago. It's like, and it's just, these people think that we're stupid. That we can't, like, they can just say and do whatever they want. That they can lie to our face, and that we're just gonna buy it whole cloth. And in a lot of ways, the people that just consume CNN bites and shit on Twitter or whatever, yeah, maybe they will. They'll just buy. Oh well, I mean that's the news is saying it, so how can it be wrong? Um, but normal people who are looking beyond just the headlines and actually do some digging and doing some reading, doing some research, it's like there we see the lies. The media has been lying to us.
Forever.
That's a
Let's just be real. They've been lying to us since forever.
yeah, pretty much. You in was it because with all the election stuff that's going on too. I mean, there's all this like controversy about like what's uh you know the electronic machines being like rigged, and how, oh no, this isn't happening, but in the same article it's like, oh well, yeah, actually, yeah,
Well,
this
right, because
this
this is a little bit of the word magic they do. They said there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. So they're admitting that there could be that there's some, but not widespread in the manner where it's like every county, every city, of the vote tally is being somehow manipulated or undermined. No. Yeah, maybe like one or two districts here and there, but no, not widespread voter fraud. And that's the magic. That's the word magic that they do to lie to your face. They're not technically lying to you because they're admitting that there's some voter fraud, but not widespread voter fraud.
Well, and the crazy thing is because there's that whole idea of like the was it the Dominion group, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one article that was, I think it was, I forget what like news source it was, like news column it was. I don't know if it was like New York Times or some, one of those, former newspapers, but where they essentially said like, oh yeah, no, this group doesn't exist, and then in the same article saying like, oh yeah, actually it kind of does exist, and it is funded by George Soros. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it's 4 paragraphs down, but
Right, of course, because
no one's reading.
again,
No one's reading the fourth paragraph.
right. That's the word
Well, they
magic
know
that they
who we
do.
are.
That's the way that they weasel out of the karmic justice, because they'll just up in front lie to you, but they'll put the truth. They'll still have the truth in there, but to the point where like people stop reading. I mean, other than people like you and me who actually read the whole damn articles, and see where they finally admit the truth. Like how you said in paragraph 4. But that's the way for them to kind of again weasel out of like the karmic justice. Because if they just straight up lie to you with like then those lies are gonna come back at them. But
I mean,
but if they admit to it, to a slight degree, they can then say like, "Oh, I wasn't lying to you fully. I still admit that this thing, this
Yeah, yes.
thing could happen." You know, it's kind of it's kind of like it's the buyer beware mentality. It's not seller beware. It's the buyer beware. It's like, well, what are you talking about? I told you.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like, you know, it's like you buying a car. And in the ad it says, oh, in good condition, barely, like if you're buying a used car and you found a car and you're reading the ad for it, it's like good condition, only drove it on weekends, you know, original paint, and then you get to it and it's like it has like it has like 90,000 miles. Because yeah, it was only driven on the weekends, but you had like you the the owner went on like really long road trips, you know,
right.
and then like, oh, it's like, yeah, it's like good condition, it's like original paint, and it's like this like chip, it's like chipped, it's like the paint, it's ice cream paint job, but there's still some parts where there's still original paint.
We're
And that's
not wrong.
and that's and yeah, and you're and the owner and like the person putting it up on sale is not lying to you. There is original paint. There, it is good. It is good condition. Only driven on the weekends, even though it was like they took it on really long road trips. So again, it's like that's kind of how they kind of ease their consciences, or try to obfuscate like the karmic justice that's due them, because like, oh, I didn't lie, I admitted to all these things, I told you this, I told you this truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's it's I feel like Mugatu from Zoolander, where it's like, am I taking fucking crazy pills? It's it's like
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, I'm very frustrated. Like even like the whole like, president-elect stuff. It's like he's not president-elect because he hasn't been elected yet. Because there's two levels to the voting. There's the general, there's the popular vote, yes, that we all participated in. Even some dead people participated in. And then there's the electoral vote, which doesn't happen until December.
right.
So he's not elect. So Joe Biden isn't, elected to nothing, and like, they try to legitimize it by saying like, like by having him stand in front of, that phony that seal, and that signage that says, office of the president elect, which doesn't exist. It's not a thing. There's no thing in the Constitution that says, oh, once the president is elected in the general, then he is the president elect. It's just like, okay, whatever. And everyone's like freaking out about like, Trump is like, losing in the courts or whatever, and like, he's allowing for like, the for the transition like team to like meet and whatever, but it doesn't mean anything, because again, like, because everyone's saying like Trump is losing all these court cases, but he only filed 3 lawsuits,
Yeah,
and all the other ones that are being thrown out are ones from like individuals.
right.
So
The
so it's like, but again, like no one's really reporting on that. All they're doing is like, just they're literally shoving Joe Biden in our faces. Not expecting us to like be paying attention. Well, I'm paying attention. I know, like, Donald Trump, he's still fighting this.
yeah, it's
And
not
I
okay.
and I know that Trump is gonna win, like in the courts or whatever. He's gonna become the president, and you know what? And all those people who are, really happy that Joe Biden won, breathing that sigh of relief, whatever, how pissed off they're gonna be, pissed off enough to start rioting.
Oh, it's gonna be so bad. Oh
Yeah,
my.
and that's by design. And everyone's like, and a lot of my friends, or a lot of people that I know who are like, who lean left, or more or less like, politically neutral. They wonder like why I keep saying like, but Trump is gonna win. It's like, because I know like that's the narrative. That's the narrative that they want. They don't want America to be strong. I mean, even if Biden is in there, you don't, Biden is a turncoat. He's already shown himself to be a traitor to like his supporters. Like he's not even, he told Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders to buzz off, even though they gave him his supporters. Like, oh, they,
Yeah.
and now he's telling him to go kick rocks. Joe Biden's a traitor. He's not gonna be progressive. He's not gonna be he's gonna betray AOC and all the squad or whatever, and his transition team is full of corporatists.
Yeah, it is, and it's we'll definitely have to do a review on this movie, but like the movie Gaslight, I mean that movie has become so relevant today. I mean this is
absolutely.
Then like I don't know if you ever seen the movie Network from 1976.
Is that the one with Is that the one with like I'm mad as heck, I'm not gonna take it anymore?
Bingo.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I know that part, but I've never seen the movie.
Oh, it's a great movie.
But I think I get like the gist of it.
Yeah, I mean it's just like how the media is just so corrupt. I mean we're being we see the truth, but we're being we're kind of like this jujitsu like moves that they're trying to pull on us, like making us like look like we're the ones that are fucking crazy, even though we see the truth. You have a corrupt media that like honestly it's all about like sensationalism and fear tactics and ratings. And Nightcrawler is also another one where it's just like, oh well, I'm just gonna like I'm gonna take advantage of like situations and like kind of create this sensationalized news that's gonna get the clicks and the likes and the views. That's all that matters. Who cares if it's like really like the truth?
Right. But yeah, and all going back, my my leftist, my more liberal. I'm gonna be a little more precise. Liberal friends, because they're not really leftists. They're more like liberals, but
yeah.
But my liberal friends and like my more apolitical friends, they're kind of wondering like why do you think that is? It's like, well, because I've been following the election. It's like, what is it? They decertified the count in Michigan. Georgia's in recount, and just today they announced that they're not certifying the count in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I saw that. That's a big deal.
Right, and something else to do with like Nevada too. I don't think they're gonna certify their numbers yet either. And so, I tell them all this, and it's like, oh, I didn't hear about that. It's like, well, yeah, because you're watching CNN or you're watching ABC or one of the networks.
The problem is they're watching legacy media and they're not gonna report on that shit.
Right, exactly. And so when eventually it does come that Trump wins, they're gonna be like they think that Trump somehow stole it back or whatever. And it's like what, this came out of nowhere. What's going on? It's like, well, if you were paying attention to the news, you would know this. You would not be surprised.
Are they gonna like say it was Russia again, or they? Oh no, it's China. China did it. It's like.
Yeah, no, exactly, and again, that is also by design, because you know what, like the enemies of this country, they don't want a strong United States. They don't want a unified United States.
Right.
So like what's better? It's like really pissed off leftists or begrudgingly supportive right-wing people, because. Even if it came for right wing people, even if it went through the courts and Joe Biden ended up becoming president, people on the right, they'd accept it. They're like, all right, fine, whatever. I don't like him, but I'll accept the results, and they won't go out and start rioting or burning shit down. It's like, okay, whatever. He's the president now. I hope he does a good. I hope he does a good job. But
Right,
I don't have high hopes. That's it.
right. It's one of those things where it's like I will wish him well. I want him to succeed. I don't want his policies to succeed because I think they're awful. But that doesn't mean I want him to fail.
Right,
Is
exactly.
being
Again, it's the rooting for my bus driver. That's all it
yeah,
is.
yep,
I'm rooting for the bus driver. It's like, please don't crash. Please don't crash. Do a good job. Do a good job. That's it. But then but so again, like the enemies of America, they know that a pissed off left is better than uh, a salty right.
yeah.
Because a salty right, they'll just be like, damn it. It's like, oh, I hope he does a good job, but whatever. As opposed to the left, it's like, burn it all down.
It just this time is just so crazy.
Yeah, it's. I'm just so like I'm trying to get so beyond it. Just everyone's like losing their minds, and I'm just trying to like not be about it because like at the end of the day, whether Trump or Biden is the president, it doesn't ultimately affect me in a very personal way. You know, and I think that's the kind of mentality a lot of people should start trying to adopt. It's like, well, yeah, he's the president, but like really he doesn't have that much power, and if Biden does get in, we've retained the majority of the Senate, and we've actually gained more seats in the House. So
Yeah, and
so if Biden does end up becoming president, like there's a stopgap.
yeah, I mean that's the
Yeah, I know that's kind of like the silver lining of the situation, even though I know Trump is going to win ultimately.
yeah. I mean
Um,
that's the thing that we retain. We start taking back like some of the House and we retain that majority in the Senate. That's a big deal, because then these people can't run roughshod, just ram shit through like uh into law.
mhm.
It's just the politics that are going on today. It's frustrating. Like I've been saying this for I years now. It's like we need to like honestly 90% of our government needs to just like go away. All these
Yeah,
unelected bureaucratic offices that
yeah, exactly.
uh, honestly we need to stop like sending off hundreds of billions of dollars to countries that want to destroy us.
Hmm.
Um, if we are giving money to countries, what are we getting out of it? Like, are we, is it like helping us to secure our borders? Is it helping us to, um, is it helping us in some way? If not, we're done.
Yeah, pull the
You know,
plug.
and especially now with like the whole like these stupid lockdowns that everyone's you trying to implement on us. Like honestly, like the time of like us shelling, giving off money to these countries, like that's done. You're on your own. We're um, it's just
Well,
it's
I mean,
ridiculous.
in terms of lockdowns, I'm actually very encouraged because, at least I'm seeing on social media like a lot of the businesses are like, you know, basically saying screw off Gavin Newsom, and they're going to continue to continue to run their business, which
As
is
they, because I
as they
think
should, which is as they
people.
should. Like I remember, I think a buddy of mine who lives out in like Manhattan Beach area shared a photo of this restaurant that put a banner up in front of like their restaurant sign that says what was it? French Laundry South.
Yeah.
So he's um, kind of like kind of thumbing their nose at Gavin Newsom, and yeah, and doing it the right way, because you know if you go and scream in the faces of these people, it's not going to change their mind. But if you just live your if you just live your life, if you do something with a smile on your face, then I think you are 100% more effective.
Honestly, like I think people are starting to wake up and realizing like, oh shit, like if I want this business that I created to survive, I had to just honestly like fuck these people. Like, this man in his ivory tower telling me what to do, yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Right? No, it's this guy I know. He always I see him practically every week I see him, and he always says like, man, when is this gonna end? And I always tell him the same answer. It's like when we decide that it's over. And I mean that's
Yeah.
what it's gonna take. That's what it's gonna take. Like with like the mask mandates or the the restaurant lockdowns, whatever. It only stops when we decide that it stops.
Well, it's and the it was funny because I had this, I had a conversation with my wife about this, like about a couple week or so ago, and I was always like, listen, like, I'm not saying that we should, that this virus doesn't exist, or that there's not like things that we can do to be smart and like stay safe, but at the end of the day, you can't live your life in fear like this. Like
Mm-hmm.
it, you can't live in the basement forever. Eventually, you have to sack up and live your life. Um, Honestly,
Right.
like if I if I'm forced, like if obviously, like if I'm just forced to, like, oh, if staying in the basement and wearing a mask at all times, if that, okay, maybe that adds 5 years to my life. Honestly, fuck those 5 years. I don't care. I want to live my life. I want to be free. I don't need.
Right.
Uh,
That's why all of those like deathbed confessionals from these people that died from corona is such bullshit, and everyone knows it's bullshit. This is like no one on their on their dying on their deathbed says like, oh, I should have just worn the mask, or I shouldn't have gone to that party. It's like,
yeah,
oh, no one says that. No one ever says like, oh, I should have played it safer. No one who's ever died, who's ever uttered their last breath said, it's like, oh, I should have put more money away in savings. It's like, no, I should have, it's like, oh, I should have traveled more, or I should have, spent, or I should have spent my money on experiences. No one ever.
bingo. Yeah,
That's why. That's why that those people, like during the DNC, where that lady was saying about her father, like, because he died of corona,
horse
but
shit.
or
It's
she's
a
like,
lot.
oh, it's like, oh, I should have just worn a mask. Bullshit. No, nobody talks like that on their deathbed. Nobody talks like, oh, I should have been more safer. Oh, I should have given away my freedoms more.
It's all, yeah. It's bullshit, and uh, it's it's like I'm not gonna live my life according to some asshole that lives in an ivory tower in a city that, like, I don't even reside in. It's
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. The governor. I mean, yes, he's the governor of California, but he's all the way in Sacramento. I live all the way down here. What the fuck is he gonna do? Like, and just, yeah, everyone just needs to stop. That's all it is. And just like if someone says like wear your mask, it's like thank you for your concern, but no. And I'll admit I've lost some resolve. I've been wearing the mask a little bit more, even though I said I'd only wear it with my parents because because honor thy father and mother. Okay, that
yeah,
but I more and more like I'm finding myself just wearing the mask simply because just out of because I don't want to deal with it. But
yeah.
if I
Part of my problem. Like, I'm
but
so fucking tired of the. It's not every woman, but it seems like it's only women, or like,
yeah,
or
yeah, 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 yeah.
men that like care about it.
Yeah, but I mean, there are certain instances. I mean, I think I got too comfortable. Like, I don't like because the places where I've actually like made ground and like not worn a mask, and they're just like, oh, that's just Andy, and they just let it go. But it's not enough because it's because if you don't act out what you believe, you're pretty much a liar. And I mean, you know, I may be a lot of things, but but I don't want to be a liar.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's funny because I was with a friend of the podcast, Brandon, Kim, Joyce, and I. We went out to our favorite bar the few nights ago, last week, and it's I've always made this joke. It's like if we had to wear the mask to get in, it's like then we sit down at our table. It's like, oh, we're in this magic bubble where it doesn't exist. We don't need the mask. We're safe now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's it's the most ridiculous thing ever.
Right. Well, especially with like the whole like dining outside stuff, where it's like you're already outside, but they make you wear a mask to walk 5 feet to your table.
Right. Listen, I get doing the whole like temperature check stuff or doing other like things, but it's we're acting so ridiculously.
Yeah. No. I mean, I understand like because again, I only I believe I'll follow rules as long as they make sense. And if you said like, oh, indoors the particles can spread a little bit more, so wear a mask indoors.
Okay.
That makes perfect sense to me. That actually does. That makes perfect sense to me. That indoors, it's not very, sometimes it's not very well ventilated, and so particles can remain in the air, and
Yeah.
and so putting on a mask, putting a barrier to that, so particles can't get in the air. That makes complete sense. Makes complete logical sense.
I'm okay
But
with
if you're
that.
telling me the seating area, which is outdoors, and it is well ventilated, but for me to cross from one side of a line to another into that eating area, which is still outdoors, I have to wear a mask to go 5 feet to my table. That does not make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean
That makes no logical sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it's just I don't know, Andy. Like I think this may be the end of I there you look in like the 30s, like of how we were in a depression.
Mm-hmm.
They're forcing a depression on us for nothing.
Yeah, no, absolutely nothing. Yeah, for a mortality rate of, or at least for healthy people, 99%. Right, and even if you had comorbidities, I think like the survival rate is still 94 point something percent, which is still
The
fuck high.
the average age I've heard is like 70 of people who are dying.
Right.
Now,
And
don't
then
get me
and
wrong.
then again and then from that percentage, another small percentage of those people have comorbidities.
Yeah.
But even with comorbidities, the survivability rate is still 94%.
I'm
I don't
not
know
saying
about you. I'm not saying like, yeah, people with comorbidities, don't wear a mask and be reckless, go lick some doorknobs. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying the odds, even with comorbidity, the odds of you surviving are pretty damn good.
well, like I said, I was telling my wife this stuff. It's like, listen, I'm not saying that like, fuck those people. Like, it's still sad. Like, yeah, there's people that are dying of it, but it's like the majority of people that are dying from it, like the median age is 70. It's which young people like they might have it, but they're not. You, I don't know of anyone in our age group that has shown any symptoms of it. They may have had it, but they're not showing any symptoms.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I mean, we both know a guy. We both know a guy that had it.
Yeah,
And yeah, and he did have symptoms, but it was like, yeah, like aches, some pains, fever, and then after a few days he was fine.
right. And it's like I'm not saying that like. And I'm kind of like just like my wife's like I've never heard that. I was like yeah, because the news isn't, they don't report this stuff because it doesn't uh, aid their narrative, because they want to keep you in fear of all this stuff so that you hide and you're scared. That's
Hmm.
what, and then like, but they're the ones that are going to give you the updates and the news that's gonna, they're gonna give you just enough to make you kind of sort of feel better, but like you're still scared, and you're gonna go back to them the next day and like learn more. It's like that's what the news is for. They're not trying to like keep you updated on like what's actual news, actual information
Hmm.
that would be useful. I mean, hell, like when we had Albert on, he's talking about it's like I had to go to like fucking like uh international news sources that are actually reporting like actual news on this stuff, that are
Hmm.
telling facts, which is insane.
Yeah, I know. It's because what is it? Because it's a constant shifting of goalposts, and like they're no, people are stupid. People are stupid, and they don't realize that that's happening. It's like 15 weeks to slow the spread.
That was like
15.
yeah, it was
That
like
was 8 months ago.
days ago.
That was 8 months ago, and then all of a sudden they shifted to, oh, look at all the deaths, the deaths, the deaths, the deaths, and then when the deaths started to go down, it's like, oh, look at all these cases, look at all these cases, look at all these cases. It's like, well, what about the deaths? Like, don't worry about it. It's all about these cases, though. It's like, well, aren't we testing more? It's like, so wouldn't it stand to reason that since we're testing more, we're finding it more? Like, no, 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 but the cases, there's so many of them.
Yeah, you're gonna kill grandma.
I know, which I would then reply to, no, 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 no. I just want to kill your grandma.
It's just
But yeah, again, the lockdowns, the mask mandates, they don't stop until we decide that they stop, right? And then all of a sudden, if enough people decide that not to wear a mask or not to close down their businesses, then all of a sudden they'll spin their narrative to say oh well, like, oh, we got a handle on coronavirus, and we can actually start easing up on restrictions and mandates and da da da, because they can't look weak. If the
yeah,
government, yeah, that's what it is. Is that the narrative all of a sudden, like, if 40% of the people in Los Angeles just stopped wearing masks, you know how quickly they would say like, "Oh yeah, Los Angeles got its shit together. We're controlling this thing." You know how
yeah,
fast that would be, and you know how fast those mandates would go away. Pretty damn fast, because they can't
overnight.
lose control of the narrative. They can't
Yeah,
lose control. They can't appear weak. The government has to be the one that saves you, not yourself. The government has to be the one to save you.
yeah, it would happen overnight.
Literally, if 30% of the people in Los Angeles decided to not wear masks anymore, boom, mask mandates gone. If 40% of the restaurants just open their dining room, no, not even just like their outdoor stuff, just allowed people to eat in, and did full capacity, boom, lockdown's over overnight. 40%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what a what a crazy time we live in, Andy.
Yeah. I'm not even like, I know, like, I'm sometimes get exasperated too, but now it's like I just want to go and just live my life, you know
That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do.
It's like.
Like for me, me, I'm an introvert. I honestly like me like not going out. Like I really don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But you know my wife. If she
Yeah, I
doesn't
know.
like
Like, yeah, she's like ripping her hair out if she doesn't get to go out.
yeah, she goes fucking ape shit. Like and then I had to deal with it. It's like, oh,
Or I have to deal with it.
yeah. I'm sorry. Sometimes I do pawn her off on you, Andy.
Yeah, you do, you fucking ass. You're lucky I love you.
I know.
But what was I going with this? Yeah, I mean now it's like I'm just like so beyond like the anger. I just I just want to laugh in their faces. Because I want to show them like you know what someone who's actually living their lives looks like. You know, and at the beginning of all of this, when they started like flirting with the idea of a mandate for the masks, I shared a story about like how when I wouldn't back when it was still voluntary, and I wouldn't wear the mask, and people would look at me funny because I wasn't wearing a mask. It's like it wasn't anything new to me.
Right.
Because I've looked, because I recognize those look, and it's the look of like, oh, you're a disease. If you touch me, I'm gonna, get like, my hands are like, especially, growing up with other kids, it's like, oh, if you touch me, then I'm gonna get your hand sickness or whatever, and my hands are gonna look like that. I know, I understand those looks, and and I'm beyond it. And so
I always
like and so it's just like so those masks were real. Yeah, the masks are a control device. That's all it is.
yeah.
To
It's
say
one of those things where I've always said like, listen, if this is what kills me, I was meant to die. It's like it's
yeah. I
uh
mean,
obviously
I
like I'm a believer.
mhm,
I am a Christian,
mhm,
and listen, I don't know when my time is up,
mhm,
but even if I did all the right things, if God wanted me to die, I'm gonna die. It's time for me to go.
right,
Whether it be by like this disease, or like I have a heart attack and just fucking like just die that way, or I get in a
mhm,
car accident, it's gonna happen. At some point we are gonna die. We cannot
right,
change that, like whether it's at
yeah,
you know 34, or 70, or whatever. Like it's gonna happen.
yeah. And to our non-believing friends, even if you just
Yeah.
believe in the concept of fate,
Yeah.
if you're fated to die from a bus crash, there's nothing that you can do to stop it. If you're fated to die from choking on a chicken bone, there's nothing you can do to stop it.
It,
If you are meant to get a disease with a 99% survivability rate, then you're gonna get it.
it's like we're in control of our lives, but at the same time we're not in control of our life.
What is it? Yeah. What's the what is it? You might be able to turn the rudder, but you don't plot the course.
Bingo. Yep. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's what I've been telling like this one guy I know who I like who's fully who's fully down the punch bowl as of Kool Aid as it were with the
Yeah.
about coronavirus and I'm constantly encouraging him to come and hang out with us and eat with us, but he's just he's too afraid of getting corona, and I said
I
what if
know,
it's
I
what
know who you're talking about. Yeah, I know who you're
yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah. And I just like told him straight up, like, what if it's God's plan for you to get coronavirus? Are you gonna go against God's will? I just kind of he kind of sputtered there for a second, but it's just like, what are you gonna do? Okay, I
you,
mean, and and he's a believer, and I said, what if it's God's plan that you get coronavirus? Not even, and I didn't even say that he was gonna die. I just said, what if it's God's plan for you to get coronavirus? Yeah, you need, kind of just like sputters, like, well, then I get coronavirus. Like, yeah,
Exactly.
and
So
it's like, and it's like, and like these masks are kind of like your, you know, these masks are kind of your attempt to, exercise your free will, and it's like kind of like, try to negate God's plan.
yeah,
And,
it
and I mean,
just
I know it's a little, it's a bit of a stretch, but and I kind of, and I challenge people, with this, say, oh, like, well, if you're trying not to get it by wearing this mask, and it's God's plan for you to get this mask, aren't you trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? Contravene? Is that the word?
yeah,
Contravene the will of God?
something like yeah. I think you're using the right word. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, yeah. I know what I want to say, but sometimes the words just don't come to me.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just like, I mean, I know I'm taking it, I'm stretching a little bit with that, but the basic principle is there.
but yeah, it's all I had to say is live your life. Don't
Absolutely.
don't let the government tell you how to live. Live your life. Be responsible for yourself. You're smart. You can handle it.
Yeah, I mean, what's that quote from Reagan about how the government should give us the facts, let us know what the consequences are, and then get out of our way,
Yeah,
or
yeah, that's
something to that effect.
something to that effect. Yeah, and that's great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just these people. Yeah, it's just so stupid. It's like there are literally more deaths by automobile accident than there are through coronavirus, and yet we have not shut down one single road, one
Yeah,
single street, one single freeway, not one. Even though there are statistically more deaths from car accidents than by corona.
yep,
In the entire, and then let's just say in the entire history of the city of Los Angeles, just keep it local. In the entire history of the city of Los Angeles, there's been more deaths by automobile collision, accident, what have you, than there have been in coronavirus. And yet, not one single road has been closed. Not one vehicle has been confiscated. Uh, Not
yeah,
one provision. Not well. Yeah, just not one. Like, no extra provision has ever been put forth on a person to drive a car.
yeah,
And everyone, and it's like everyone makes that false it's a false equivalency when they say, like, oh, if mask works, why the social distancing? What if social distancing works? But they equate it to the car, where it's like, oh, if seatbelts work, why airbags? If airbags work, why seatbelts? If airbags and seatbelts work, why brakes? But that's a false equivalence, because brakes are an essential component of the car for its operation. The proper app is why speed limit.
yeah. Uh,
But I think we've talked to the subject to death, even though we kind of went off a little bit on a tangent,
no,
a
it's all.
really wide tangent. But
I do. I feel a little better. Just kind of like to rant and rave a little bit about this.
yeah, and I mean, I just want people to take the smallest bit of time to think critically about this. Even if we maybe spark something, like just the idea of like these arbitrary rules, like, oh, it you can only have, like, it's always the odd number. you can that these uh, when they make up these rules, like, oh, you can't have more than 7 people or whatever. It's like, well, why 7? Why not 8? Sometimes people come in couples.
Yeah.
Or like with the mask thing, where it's like, even though the eating area is outdoors and you are not going anywhere near through the inside, you still have to wear a mask to walk 5 feet to your table, even though it's outside. Just think about that. Just think about that, because the idea is that if you're indoors and the particles can remain long for a long time, and since there's no ventilation, it's gonna be in the air for a while. But if you're outdoors, then you don't have to wear a mask. These simple critical questions, these simple critical questions that you can ask, it's still allowed.
Yeah.
So just ask the questions. Think about them. Kind of how Gavin McInnes says, play it through.
Yeah.
Play it through.
Yeah. That's always great advice. Play it through.
Play it through. If I wear them, it's like if I have to wear the mask outdoors, but it's because of not well ventilated space, then why do I have to wear the mask? If it's outdoors, and outdoors has the best ventilation ever, outdoors.
Yeah.
Do yourselves a favor, it's like, when did government become the good guy? I just don't know.
I've never understood that in my whole life.
Neither have I. My philosophy about government is they should be as big as a fly and only half as annoying.
That's I like that. That's great.
Well, I'm glad I was able to get a deep, genuine laugh out of you. Because you're looking a little dour there for a second.
I am looking. Yeah, you know what? That did lift my spirits, Andy. I like that.
Right? Yeah, the government should be as big as a fly and only half as annoying.
All right. Well, let's move on.
Yeah. All right. We've achieved catharsis.
Yes, definitely.
And so let's get into our review for the toys that made us. And this episode is about Transformers. And I didn't realize there was such a close association with G.I. Joe.
Yeah, this is an interesting episode. Well, like, so a lot of people, I think, wouldn't realize how, the Transformers are a Japanese brand. It was essentially it was a Japanese franchise of transforming robots, and the Americans like, oh, this is a cool toy. Let's bring this to the American market, but what are we gonna do with it? And I mean, you had one guy essentially that was like tasked with creating all the backstories of these characters for all these for this toy line. It was kind of a now it was just a fascinating thing. And for me, I love Transformers. It was one of my now I came into it a little bit later. I When I was a kid, I watched the Beast Wars cartoon on TV, but obviously there was a huge tie-in to the original Transformers. If you watched that show,
Right, the
and
Generation 1 Transformers.
right. So,
that's actually what I grew up with. Early, what I watched, particularly in reruns.
right.
As a child. So I was I was all about Optimus and Megatron and like the whole like Autobots versus Decepticons.
Right.
But yeah, I did. I also did. There's a weird schism within the Transformers fandom where not a lot of people appreciate Beast Wars, but I actually did appreciate Beast Wars, and
I
I actually
love
enjoyed it.
Wars. Awesome. Let me
Yeah.
tell you, that is one of the darkest shows.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
absolutely.
is very dark. It's very, and like there's times where it's like it's it hurts a little bit, like because the characters that you care about, like there's a lot of sacrifice and death, and it's a very dark show. Um, yeah, the CGI graphics held up very well. Not really. It's kind of
No,
like the
not
same.
at all.
Yeah, same as like I don't know if you ever watched Reboot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was done by
Right,
the same studio.
right. It's not the best graphics,
Hmm.
but the story is awesome.
Oh
And so
yeah, absolutely.
I own the entire so I have all the Transformers DVDs, I have all the Beast Wars DVDs, and even the what was it, Beast Machines, which was the show that came
Mm.
on after Beast Wars.
Right,
It
right,
was
right.
with them going back to Cybertron. I have that too, and they're all awesome.
Couldn't
Um,
agree with more.
yeah, and but because in the second season of Beast Wars, there's a huge tie-in to
Yeah, the
uh,
first generation Transformers.
and that's what I want to go back and I want to see like what's because when the Autobots and Decepticons crash landed onto Earth 4 million years ago, that's actually where Beast Wars is set,
Hmm.
and so they discover the Ark, the Autobot ship, and Megatron the Megatron of the time, finds that and is like, oh, well, I can eliminate um, the Maximals by destroying the old Autobots,
Hmm.
their
Their ancestors.
their ancestors. So that's what he tries to do, and it's like, oh man, there's this whole like tie-in like to the original like Transformers. So that's what got me. It's like, well, I gotta go back and I gotta watch all the stuff from like the Transformers, and they're just it's just an awesome series.
It
And
is.
yeah, but the fact that how they like created the toy line, obviously they were toys first, and then they created a show around these toys.
Right.
Um, and the show is fucking great. Like, and the fact, but you would think that like the toys came from the show, and that's not the case. They created these storylines from the toy line, and it was this one guy that did it. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
I mean, I think it's you'd be surprised at how often that's true, where the toys actually uh, was the inspiration for the cartoons. I think. I mean, even GI Joe. That was the
Yeah,
cartoon was the inspiration from the not the original 12-inch action figure from the 60s, but the later iteration.
yeah, when they were trying to reboot GI Joe,
Mhm.
they created a they created new toys, and they created a cartoon around it to boost their sales,
Right,
and
exactly.
it was a huge fucking success.
Hmm. But yeah, the history that's tied with GI Joe though for Transformers is that um, what was it the two companies, Hasbro and the Japanese company whose name escapes me, but they
Yeah,
basically had a partnership agreement to we'll sell this product and here in America, and you sell this product here in Japan and vice versa. And one of the products was GI Joe, but being the Japanese, they had a pretty what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? They didn't have the best relationship with American military. And so
right.
what they ended up doing is uh, changing GI Joe in Japan into a robot line, a robot toy
Yeah,
called was it Micronauts?
Something like that, yeah.
Where you could take parts off and like mix and match, sort of a deal. But it was from that then that they were able to get the rights for the Transformers.
Yeah, yeah. And that was the huge thing. I have a bunch of Transformers, from the Beast Wars line.
Yeah,
I don't
Cheetor.
have them all. I don't have them all here. I have like one of the Cheetor from like season 2.
All right, that's the Phase 2 Cheetor.
Yeah, I have all the phases of Cheetor. But yeah, it's a unfortunately I wasn't able to get all the Beast Wars line. At some point I'm probably gonna try to like acquire them. I don't think they're too expensive. But yeah, I mean it's such a cool thing, like you to be
Yeah,
able to like
robots that transform into stuff.
yeah, it's now the old like Gen 1 Transformers, like the ones that like we're talking about with like Optimus Prime and Megatron and Starscream and all of those and like
Bumblebee.
all those guys. Those toys are fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't afford those, but like the Beast Wars and like Beast Machines toys, like which that's what I grew up with. Um, if at some point I'm gonna see if I can try to like acquire all of them. But yeah, it's just such a cool like little toy line, and the the other thing that was also something cool that they did too is that not only did they create these like obviously it's from Japan, but for when they were bringing it to America to help sell the story of these characters on the toy boxes, they would have like the character and like a description, like kind of giving a story of like Optimus Prime or Megatron or like all these characters and like what their background was, and it's so you get like a little bit of the story of the character even before like and then the cartoon came out. So it was and there's been so many iterations of Transformers of kind of like the Gen 1 stuff. There's actually a new Netflix series
Oh yeah,
from
I caught it. It's kind of like it's like kind of the backstory to the Autobots and the Decepticons, leaving on the Ark.
right, yeah, and it's awesome.
And yeah, it is great. Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like Optimus Prime coming into being the Optimus Prime we know as like the sure, confident military leader slash father figure slash mentor mentor.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like in the series he's very conflicted and he doesn't know like if he's doing the right thing. All he knows is like he's been you know the leadership role has been ultimately been foisted on him because the matrix of leadership chose him over what was it, Magnus something.
Yeah.
Magnus Prime or
yeah, Ultra Magnus.
Ultra Magnus, there it is. But yeah, it's great. It's absolutely fantastic, and interestingly, we wouldn't have this new Netflix cartoon if it wasn't for I think it was who's that guy from Marvel? Jim Schuster, I believe it was.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he was the only one that like believed in it, and he then I think he passed it on to like one of his subordinates who basically created the show Bible.
Yeah.
He came up with all like the names and like the backstories, and he created the idea of them being at conflict with each other, kind of like a civil war.
Yeah.
And it's like God damn, that's some pretty damn inspired writing.
It like I said, it's you would never like think that like something so like it seems like something so simple, but it's not. It's they create this like really like great like backstory, and it's to this day people love Transformers. I mean, you obviously we had all the Michael Bay films, which were okay at
Yeah.
best.
Yeah, the first
But
one was obviously the best one.
the first one was good. I will recommend watch Bumblebee. That is an awesome
Yeah,
movie.
Bumblebee was good. Yeah, I'll give it to that.
Yeah.
Bumblebee's good.
The original Transformers animated movie, that is awesome. It has one of the Optimus Prime death scene. Yeah, I still think it's like one of the great. I put it like when we didn't do this for the podcast, but just as kind of like a exercise for you, myself, and another friend of the podcast, Eric. We created our favorite movie scene. We kind of listed our favorite movie scenes, and I think like I don't know if it made my top 5, but the Optimus Prime death scene was like definitely in my top 10. Where it's like it's just such a powerful moment.
Oh yeah, I mean, you'd have to be a heartless person, or someone made of metal.
Yeah.
If you didn't get a little misty eyed at that scene, because it's, I mean, even if you didn't have like a nostalgic tie to Transformers, that death scene was, man, it was powerful.
Yeah, and especially because if you watch all the episodes leading up to the movie, because I think it's like the first 3 seasons, and then you watch the movie, and then everything else after that, is like post movie. And when I was watching everything for the first time, it's like I didn't expect Optimus Prime to die. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I was heartbroken because he's like he's my favorite character.
Right? Yeah, it's just like you didn't expect this from like a supposed children's cartoon, but they went there. They absolutely went there.
They absolutely went there. And I mean, like, and obviously, I did the transformation on my Cheetor here, but it's a toy line that they made into a great story, and it sold a shit ton of Transformers toys that like people couldn't get enough of, and it's just kind of like cool how the whole thing kind of came together, and I don't know. I don't know if I like this. I think like with Star Wars, obviously I have a lot of connection to the movies. I don't have a ton of Star Wars toys. I have a ton of these. I mean, this to me, like when we talk about the toys that made us, this was my childhood. Like this is something that like I loved growing up. Like it was probably my favorite cartoon.
Yeah, I actually had the Autobot version of the Boombox Transformer.
Soundwave?
No, the Autobot version though. I forget what it's called.
Shoot, what was his name? I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. But yeah, me too. This. Just watching this episode like brought back a lot of nostalgia because
I have a lot more.
My mom actually got rid of a lot of my toys. I literally don't have much from like my childhood that I could like still hold on to. I still have the memories, of course. But.
Yeah, I will never get rid of these. I've had a lot of toys. Like the next episode, obviously, we're gonna be doing is gonna be Ninja Turtles, which unfortunately I did give some of those away. I will never give my Transformers away. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah. Again, I did have a bunch of Ninja Turtle toys, but again, my mother gave them away or made me give them away. So I don't really have much like tangible stuff from my childhood, but I still have the memories. I still have the memories.
Um, like I said, I don't not really have too much to say other than it's like it was kind of cool to see how it all kind of came together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm so glad it did because it really helped me like really appreciate um just the intuitiveness and like the creativity that like went into not only creating the toys, which are a great idea,
Mm-hmm.
but like the fact that they took like an idea of just like, oh, it's a toy that goes from like one thing to another, and they created this whole franchise off of it. And it was, I mean, it wasn't like effortless to them, but it's like, man, it's they could have like kind of like done like it's this made this really shitty like cartoon, but
Mm-hmm.
no, they seem like they gave a damn.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's another thing? I always was under the assumption that GoBots was the Japanese name for Transformers, but it was actually a competitor.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I didn't know that. I always assumed that GoBots was the Japanese kind of like romanization or whatever uh,
yeah.
for Transformers. But no, GoBots were its own thing. Um, they're a competitor brand, and they were actually in the lead for a while. And their downfall was uh, their lack of sophistication in terms of like how their robots transform.
Right,
Their
exactly.
um,
Yeah,
GoBots, it was a very like a simple like it was like if it was like a car, all you had to do is like pull it apart and then maybe open up like and move like open up the doors of the car and there would be the arms. But that was about it. As opposed to Transformers toys, which they showed like that clip of parents at the mall trying to transform Optimus Prime from truck mode to robot mode, and they're like, oh god, kind of making jokes like, man, you need like an engineering degree to figure this out.
yeah. It's I mean, it's been a while since I've transformed all of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to, you know, I it might take me a while to be honest.
Right.
But man, I love Transformers. It's probably like my favorite of the cartoons I watched growing up. Um, I will never get rid of my Transformers toys. And no, it was fun watching this episode. I had a ton of fun. And it's just I'm just amazed by the how creative they were with the franchise, like
Mm-hmm.
with these toys. Like I said, they could have just completely sold out, created a like kind of a oh, here's a cartoon for like the kids to sell toys. It's like, but no, they didn't do that. Like they created a cartoon that people still care about and watch today. I mean,
Right. And
it's pretty.
interestingly enough, GoBots, the competitor also had a cartoon, but it wasn't
Who
sophisticated. It wasn't sophisticated. It didn't delve into like darker themes. It was very much like a Saturday morning kids cartoon, where it's like
right?
it's like kind
More
of
than that.
goofy and like kind of like they were a little bit softer in design, um, and like a little bit more kind of like zany kind of plots. And so it's like it's not that much of a surprise why GoBots didn't outpace Transformers for very long.
Well, and it even got to the point where like when you had the Transformers movie, animated movie, I mean, you had like pretty like you had some of the music was like the soundtrack was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You had Orson Welles doing the voice of Unicron. You had
Mm-hmm.
Leonard
I
Nimoy
have
doing
Leonard Nimoy,
Galvatron.
Galvatron.
And it's like these are huge names.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
like you got motherfucking Orson Welles.
Orson Welles, like at the end of his, towards the end of his life, is doing the voice acting for Unicron. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Hey, do you know that he was once married to Rita Hayworth?
No way.
Yeah, I just looked it up recently because I was watching Aviator, and for some reason
Oh,
I was confusing Kate Beckinsale's portrayal of Ava Gardner as Rita Hayworth. And I looked up Rita Hayworth, and it's like former spouses. It's like Orson Welles. It's like what?
I did not know that.
Yeah, just as a little aside, but yeah, this episode was great. Transformers is great.
Yeah, it hit me like it's like, oh man, this is just. I love Transformers. I always will. I always have. I always will. I actually want to play the. There's a game on PS4, Transformers Devastation, I believe is the title, and it's a Gen 1 Transformers game, and it looks really good. I I've seen some gameplay of it, but I'll shoot you some video of that. But I hope to I might end up like buying that game at some point.
Hmm.
But it feels like you're playing like in a Gen 1 Transformers episode almost.
Cool. That sounds fun.
But yeah, I mean Transformers are awesome. If you've never seen it, if you've never seen the cartoon, I highly recommend it. Um, Michael Bay tried to ruin it, but honestly, they have their own charm too. The fact that they got
they gave Optimus Prime a mouth. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, although I will give them credit for making it, doing a creative thing where it's like, oh, when he does, when he has like the more angular faceplate, that's just like him in battle mode. That was a pretty cool adaptation. I'll give it to
Now, was I don't remember this, but like what the voice of Optimus Prime, which is that was Frank Welker, right?
No. That's Peter Cullen.
Peter Cullen, yeah.
Yeah,
He
Frank
also
Welker was Megatron.
he also oh that's right, but he also did the voice of Optimus Primal in Beast Wars too, didn't he?
No.
Was that someone else?
That was somebody else. That was a different actor. But yeah,
Man,
that voice actor was great too.
the voice who did Optimus Primal, he sounded almost like the original voice. I always thought it was.
Gary Chalk, I believe it is.
He did a great job.
Yeah, no. Well, I only know the actor's name is because he's also a pretty prominent figure within like sci-fi movies.
Okay.
Yeah. Or yeah, it's like sci-fi like TV shows and movies. Gary Chalk. But yeah, he was a great Optimus Primal or like kind of like Optimus figure.
Yeah, like I actually thought that was the original voice of Optimus Prime. But no, man, he did an awesome job.
Yeah, very commanding. Very well done.
All right, well, let's get into our
All right.
our movie review, and we'll wrap this up. You give the synopsis. I'm gonna go use the bathroom.
All right. Yes, tonight our movie review is one of my favorite martial arts movies from my childhood, which is Best of the Best. And let me give you a quick synopsis of that. A misfit team of American kickboxers must undergo rigorous training for an all-important contest against a ruthless Korean team. Along the way, the hardened fighters learn to lay their personal ghosts to rest. This movie came out in 1989, but I first didn't watch it. I first watched it when I was about 7 or 8, which would have been around 92, 93. But it was, it's one of those movies that like kind of like is a part of my childhood. Um, not least of which because one of the leads is actually a Korean person, and actually the kind of quote unquote bad guys are Korean as well, kind of like in Bloodsport where
Yeah.
Bolo Chong Lee is supposed to be a Korean fighter, but again another movie where the bad guy is kind of like is supposed to be Korean, even though he actually is in real life.
I will have to say, like, I was completely wrong about how I thought this movie was gonna
Yes,
go.
and I was just about to get into that because when I first told Robert we're gonna do this, we're gonna review this movie, he watched the trailer, and and Robert's reaction was like, "Man, this is glorious garbage," kind of like this movie that Rob really loves, which was what was it, Samurai Cop.
Yeah, I do.
Samurai Cop, which is glorious garbage. Me and Robert, we watched it. We watched the Rift Tracks version of it, but
Yeah.
it was still glorious garbage.
It was
And
awesome. It's so bad. It was great.
right, and Rob thought it was gonna be one of those type of movies, um, just based
And
on the trailer that he watched.
in the trailer,
But I knew better. I knew better, and so I let Rob think that. Going in watching this movie, I let Rob think that this movie was gonna be glorious garbage, but I knew better, and eventually Robert found out and knows better now.
no, this movie is not glorious garbage. This movie is not only is it the best movie of the month. This is probably one of the greatest martial arts movies I think I've ever seen. Outside of maybe like the original Ip Man, this is so good. The characters were compelling. The story was compelling. I was invested the entire time. And James Earl Jones, I think, puts in one of his greatest performances. I think this is his best acting. One of his best acting jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Eric
just like because also this movie is surprisingly star-studded.
Yeah.
Even in terms of like the lesser known like B or C actors, because of course you have freaking James Earl Jones, but then you also have like Chris, you have Chris Penn, Sean Penn's brother,
who I say he looks like
right, Jonah Hill Sr.
Yeah.
And you're not wrong. And you're not wrong. That's the craziest thing. He's not wrong in this movie. Well, just in general, yeah. Chris Penn looks like Jonah Hill's father.
Yeah. Oh, he looked like him. Eric Roberts, who actually doesn't play a villain in this movie for once.
Right. And then also, what's her face? Nurse Ratched.
Yeah.
Louise Fletcher. Yeah. Louise Fletcher's in this movie as well, and not being a bitch.
And it's like all the characters had like a very early. The two main characters were obviously like you had Eric Roberts' character and the Korean character. That were playing on that were fighting for the American team.
Yeah, Tom
they had a
played by Philip Ree.
Yeah.
Who actually wrote this? Who actually wrote this movie?
Yeah, and him and his brother wrote it, right?
Oh no, I double checked. It was just him.
It was just him. Okay, but his brother did play in the movie, right?
Yes, he was the main bad guy. He was Daehan.
Yeah. And it's so good. this is it's better. It's definitely better than the two we watched this month. But this is such a good movie. I was completely blown away. I shed some tears at the end of the movie.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah. The end has a particularly satisfying conclusion or resolution, and it's
I
you know
don't
if you and again
I don't
if you don't
I
get
don't
misty
cry.
eyed if you don't get misty eyed then you don't have a soul.
I don't cry in movies. I cried in this movie a little bit. It was such a touching ending too. It's just like, and throughout the movie, like we're kind of like because we are what is what's I forget his the character's name, the Korean character's name in for the American team. What was his name again?
Tommy.
Tommy. We're kind of given a we are looking through Tommy's lens in a lot of ways because
Mm-hmm.
he was at this one tournament that his brother was uh uh I think it was his brother that
Yeah, his
he was
older
fighting.
brother was fighting, and also the antagonist, I guess, Daehan was also fought in.
Right. And but like Tommy was a very young kid, and in this match his Tommy's brother dies at the hand of Daehan. Um it's like, and so obviously Tommy carries a lot of this hatred and like and hurt within inside of him like all these years.
Right, yeah, anger and fear because anger because he hates Daehan and he wants to avenge his brother, but also fear of Daehan because he killed his brother. So what's to say like that he couldn't kill that Daehan couldn't kill him?
Right.
So
And we're led
it's a very mixed it's a very mixed bag of feelings.
right, and we are led to believe that Daehan is just this evil, horrible, terrible person.
Right, he's like this unfeeling, just like Taekwondo master.
Right, and because but we're like I said, we're seeing Daehan through like 10-year-old Tommy's eyes, and the reality is, the payoff at the end is that like he he actually like felt a lot of remorse towards killing his brother,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that like even at the end of the fight he felt like Tommy could have finished him off like Daehan did with his brother,
Mm-hmm.
but he chose not to do it. And he was held back by James Earl Jones, his coach. What was I'm blanking on his name now too.
Kuzo.
Yeah, Frank Kuzo. very, very James Earl Jones style like name.
Right.
Uh, but like even like with uh, uh, James Earl Jones's character Frank Kuzo, the coach, who is a giant ass in the entire movie. You wonder, like, man, he's being a fucking dick.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is like, and we'll come to find out is that he was actually Tommy's brother's coach in like this same type of tournament, many years ago, and he felt a great deal of guilt over the death of Tommy's brother, and it changed his entire coaching philosophy. It's like where he didn't give his best as a coach, and it cost his one of his um, players his life.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many different like layers of to this movie, and you just keep peeling them back, and all it's such a great movie, and it's got great comedy in there, it's got great drama. If you're looking for emotion, this movie it's got it all. This is just a run of the mill like, oh, it's a great, it has great action. It's just a martial arts fighting movie. It's more than that. It's a really awesome movie.
Right. Absolutely. Um, I said. I think I told you this when we watched it. But I mean, this is I'm in complete agreement with you in that this is a great movie, you know, overall. But I wish there was I wish there was a small scene showing prior like the death of Tommy's brother.
That would have. I mean, we're given snippets of that.
Right, we're giving like
And
flashbacks through like Tommy's memory, but I wish
right.
there was like a little bit more setup because like the revelation that Tommy's brother fought under Coach Kuzo all those years ago was kind of a I think was a little bit jarring, a little bit more than a surprise, and I think it would have gone a long way to add a little bit more characterization for Coach Kuzo's character, because
Right.
he comes in pretty hard, as a hard ass like pretty much right away. But if we understood, like maybe back when he was a younger man, he was like a little bit more softer. Like, hey guys, just go out there and give it your best shot, and I'll be proud of you no matter what. And then like
Right.
all of a sudden, like one of his fighters dies. It's like, oh shit. I think it would have helped give a little bit more context of why he was so hard on the team.
Right, and I think it had that could have been a point where like they could have done like a little bit of like when Frank is telling that story to one of the assistant coaches, the female assistant coach,
Right.
that they could have done like a little bit of flashback with showing like from Frank's point of view. That could have been something they could have done. I mean, I think that's honestly that's really my only knock on the movie. But yeah, because really the only like the death of Tommy's brother is we're only really seeing that through Tommy's lens as a 10-year-old kid.
Right. Right, and when understandably, he's devastated by it. It's left an indelible mark, and made him the man that he is, at the time of the movie.
Right.
But yeah, but maybe just like just a little bit more like an objective, um, maybe more an objective perspective of Tommy's brother's death. Because like we're seeing that when Daehan like kind of finishes him off, he doesn't show any remorse, but like maybe he actually did show a little remorse, and maybe he had a little bit more like shock on his face and was like, oh my god, I just killed somebody.
Right, and I think when at the end of the movie we kind of get that payoff where these people that we're led to like, oh, we don't like these guys, we hate them, but then they show a bit of humanity. It's like, wow, like there's so much more to like the antagonists too that we don't even realize that they actually have a heart. They actually do care, and you find out that Daehan actually carried a lot of guilt over the death of Tommy's brother.
Right. It's like that Wreck-It Ralph line. It's like, just because you're a bad guy doesn't mean you're a bad guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I mean, yeah, we were looking at everything through the perspective of the American team, and it's like, oh, the American team good guys, the Korean team bad guys, and even like kind of in the way that they're framing, when they're revealing the opponents for each of the members of the team. We weren't given too much context for them other than being like the opponents and like these scary fighters with who have hold all these titles and medals and things like that, and and the idea of like these guys have been been training their entire lives. It's part of like the Korean culture to teach their young men taekwondo, and they eat, sleep and shit martial arts.
Right.
And so that they're in the minds of the American team, they were these unfeeling like Supermen. But then again, when you have like that payoff at the end where Dayon, tells Tommy, "I regret, that your brother died, and like, I, humbly offer myself to take his place." And and then like down, you kind of like down the line, um, you get emotional payoffs for the other fighters. Like, I guess like the only other instance is really Eric Roberts' characters, where his opponent comes up to him and says, it's like, kind of rattles off like some things that he knows about him, and he's like, oh, I've since they've been training just as diligently, it's like, oh, I know everything about you. And Eric Roberts' character is like, so filled with emotion where it's just like, and he, and the Korean fighter gives him like the medal, and then he's like, oh, man, it's like, I know everything about you too, but this is all I need to know about you.
Yeah, exactly. It's and yeah, because I don't know if like Eric Roberts' character is like kind of the main character. 'Cause, like we see the most about like him. Him and Tommy are really the focus.
Right.
And he's kind of a guy that was on the outs. Like he'd been in this tournament before, but like had his shoulder
Right. He had
got
an injury that took him out, and this was like his comeback. Um, Essentially, and this movie was more centered around Tommy and Alex, uh, Philip Ree's character and Eric Roberts' characters respectively. Um, but I mean, we didn't really need to. I mean, I think if they try to do backstories or some like sort of res, character resolution for the other three members of the team, I think it would have been it would have been just been too muddy.
Yeah, and I kind of like that they focused on Tommy and Eric Roberts' character.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, and like obviously like the other guys were there too, and like we got to see a little bit of them. But I don't think they needed to me like the main focus should have been on Frank Kuzo, Tommy, and Eric Roberts' character, and I think I liked the way that they handled it. Uh, and it's such a like I said, this movie is great. This is a really really good movie. I didn't. I honestly, I was blown away watching this movie. I couldn't look away. This movie is we've been talking about like movies that have surprised us. In the movies that we've like reviewed,
Mm-hmm.
this is definitely at the top of the list. I did not expect this at all.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that I kind of misrepresented this movie to you, or I did at least at the very least I didn't correct your assumption about this movie.
Because it's like if it was like kind of because trust me, there's glorious crap that I like that it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this movie's awesome. And I always try to get people to like watch stuff that that's kind of in that lens. And I
Mm-hmm.
figure it's like, oh, this is after watching the trailer, it's like, oh, Andy likes glorious crap too, like and like, but this is his childhood. He loves this movie, so I was definitely gonna give it a chance. But when I watched it, I was like, this movie has so much heart and character and depth to it. I didn't expect it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of people like they're not familiar with the best of the best series, and it is a series. It actually goes up until 4 movies.
There's 4 movies.
Yeah.
Damn.
But obviously my favorite. I actually haven't watched the other ones. I've only watched this first one, but it's still like even if I'm gonna go out on a limb and say like without even actually seeing the other 3, this is my favorite one.
Oh yeah, I mean that's. I have a feeling that this one is definitely the best one. I don't think there's any other in the series that would top it. But I am kind of curious to check out the sequels.
Yeah. Likewise. I mean, I know what the second one is like, kinda about. Um, but and it does, and it definitely does stray away from like this sort of the first one, like the format.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I'm still gonna call this shot and say that this one is my favorite out of this series. Again, I'm still willing to go check out the rest of the series, but yeah, this one is my favorite.
But
Because it does have so much depth, and it's like, here's this guy who's been holding on to this pain and anger and fear over the loss of his brother, and he has this opportunity to try and, uh, get some revenge or satisfaction, or whatever you
right.
want to call it, and and he has that opportunity. He has that opportunity to avenge his brother, to you know to get his revenge, but he holds back. He holds back because ultimately he knows that even if he kills this guy, his brother is still dead, and his brother's not coming back.
Yeah. I don't really know anything else I can really say about the movie. It's just other than go watch it. It's
Hmm.
so good.
Absolutely.
If you love martial arts movies,
Hmm.
this I mean, like I said, outside of like the original Ip Man, I can't think of one better than this one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Robert expressed this to me before we started the stream, but even I was a little taken aback because Ip Man is a really, like, the first one. The first one is I mean, not to knock the other ones, but the first one is a damn good movie. Damn good.
It's really good.
And it's like, and then as much as I love this movie, like, having that comparison, it's like, it never really struck me to compare, or like, uh, put them in the same category of like greatness. But after hearing it again, it makes sense to me. It makes sense to
Yeah, it's like I said, I can't put it above Ip Man,
me.
but it's really close.
Right.
It's
It's in the same category of
oh,
greatness.
100%. It's like I said, it's one of the greatest martial arts movies I've ever watched.
Awesome. Do you have anything else to add? Because I mean, I don't really have anything else. Although,
I
well, really quickly, I really love like the camaraderie that's built up amongst the teammates in this movie.
Oh yeah, actually, so a couple of like the great scenes, based off the camaraderie. You so initially, like, before like the training begins, they're all like allowed to eh, go out into town and like go out to this bar.
Hmm.
And one of the characters who's kind of like this, like kind of like nerdy Buddhist
Hmm.
character, he I think what was his name, Travis.
Yeah, Travis.
Yeah, Travis. He like is just so goofy where like he ends up like spilling like hot coffee all over this girl, and then like she's like,
Oh
oh,
no.
it's okay.
Yeah, Virgil.
Oh, Virgil, okay.
Yeah.
Travis was the
Travis is
was
yeah. Travis is the Chris Penn. Is Chris Penn's character.
that. Oh yeah, that's right. Jonah Hill Sr.
Yeah, Johnny.
uh, uh yeah, no, so Virgil spills hot coffee all over this one girl, and she's like, oh, it's okay. And then it's like end up like dancing, like it's like, and like, damn, like he spills like hot coffee all over this chick, and like she's all over him, you know. And like the rest of them are all striking out, and so they're and then they end up getting into was I think like Travis ends up like kind of like dancing and starting to hook up with this one chick that's dating one of the other like guys in the bar,
Hmm.
and it ends up causing this whole bar fight, which looks like a scene out of Roadhouse.
Right. Yeah, Roadhouse.
And so it's like It's like, and Tommy's like, man, I didn't want to fight. It's like, well, like, I just wanted to, have a beer, but shit happens.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. The Eric Roberts character. Yeah. You know, he's trying to console Tommy because like, oh, I didn't want to fight. He's like, I just wanted a beer, but shit happens. But like, what probably like one of the funniest things happened is like the girl that Travis is dancing with, her boyfriend punches her in the face because he's
Oh,
because because he's pissed off at Travis, and so he tries to deck him, and he just kind of gets out of the way and punches the girl in the face, and it's just like,
it was so. Oh, sorry, baby.
yeah, I was just like,
You know, hit her before, but like he didn't mean to hit her that
I know,
time.
right, that time.
No, but the other like great like camaraderie scene was they're in the cafeteria and Travis is being like a dick. He's been a dick like the entire movie, and he's like talking shit to Tommy. It's like, what are you? What are you, yellow? It's like because he's trying to like talk shit because he's like Asian, and it's like, and Tommy just looks at him and is like, yeah, obviously. And just everyone just starts fucking like bursting out laughing. Even Frank Kuzo, the coach, who's like a hard ass, he was laughing about it.
Right.
It's like, and I like that, like, obviously there was like this, kind of this semi-racist character, but like the Tommy's like he just took it in stride and like kind of like deflected it, did some jujitsu and like kind of like put it back on Travis. Like it's like, you can't get in my head.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's funny because that's how like all male like relationships almost like begin and kind of maintain to some degree.
Yeah, exactly, and it's great. This movie is great.
Yeah, because like I mean, at some point you're gonna be insulting the other person, and the other person is either gonna take it, deflect it, or be a little bitch about it.
Right.
And yeah, just Tommy took the right route and just like constantly deflected. And it's just kind of just kind of yeah, again, just kind of like mental jujitsu to him, and turned Travis's energy back onto him, and it's ultimately he gained the respect of Travis. Whatever whatever that that's worth. Um, but then like but now I'm sure Tommy like has like a really good friend in Travis.
Yeah, I think they all end up becoming like really good friends. I have a feeling that they all end up becoming like really like strong friends, and they have like kind of like a lifelong bond together.
Yeah, it's no different from people that go in who suffer through like military training or or experience something traumatic together. Uh, experience and trauma bonds people. So.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got to say about Best of the Best.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Then let's give our ratings and we'll wrap this bitch up.
Sounds like a plan. I'm giving it a 4.5-star rating. I think I already told you that like after we watched the movie, it's like, dude, this is 4.5 stars, easy for me.
Right.
And like I said, the only knock I have on it is like, yeah, I kind of wish we had gotten a little bit more of Frank Kuzo's background, like with the death of Tommy's brother, and like how that affected him and changed him. We get that a little bit in the dialogue, but I think it would have been kind of like good to see like a little bit of a flashback there. But other than that, like it's a flawless movie. Like it's really good.
Yeah. For me, I want to give this a 5. I really do, but I'm gonna be honest with myself and kind of like the points that you brought up about kind of characterization, and I even myself brought it up as well. So I will knock it for that, and so I will be agreeing with you and saying 4.5.
Yeah, it's nearly a perfect movie. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
can't
just
wait.
like a little bit more. Yeah, like maybe. Yeah, again. So just maybe getting an objective, a point of view of Tommy's brother's death, and then also a little bit more characterization because obviously, Coach Kuzo is carrying around a guilt for not preparing, his fighters, for what to expect. And so, he was carrying that himself for a while. But I wish, again, yeah, a little like a small flashback scene of him like not being as hard or not being as demanding for like uh, Tommy's brother's group. Would I think would have gone a long way.
Yeah, like honestly, like I'm. This is one of those movies like where I actually kind of want to buy the movie, like the like physically, so that way
Physical
I can
copy.
watch it again and again.
Mm-hmm.
It
Absolutely.
yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it. That's our review of Best of the Best. Both Robert and I give this a 4.5. Me, maybe a little bit more reluctantly because, there's nostalgia tied into it. But yes, definitely full-hearted endorsement of this movie. You need to watch this movie. You like not you literally need to watch the movie. It's so good, and it is not in. It's safe to say that we're not exaggerating. It's that good of a movie.
Yeah,
So do yourself a favor, find a copy. I think we watched it on Amazon Prime.
yeah. It's on Amazon
So it's
Prime.
on Amazon Prime at the least. So if you don't have Amazon Prime, this might be a good reason for you to get it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us tonight. Um, I hope you had a good time. I know I did, and I know Robert certainly did.
I always do, Andy.
Always. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday. I know this is a Wednesday, but we do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. ish. And don't forget to check out the library of other shows that we have, the Circle Jerks main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Robert's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts. Twitter and Letterboxd is at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram is at Circle of Jerks Podcast. Um, and, uh, and with all that said, we thank you again, and we'll do it again next week. Have a good
Sounds
night.
like